Come on. Thank you. Jeez. That took a long time to get started. All right, let me pop out the chat. That's not the right button. That's the right button. Move it over here. No. Okay. Do that, and that's all good. And there. Howdy, folks. I hope you're doing well. Kriegs, how you doing? Darker Design, good morning. Dragonfire, morning from Quebec. Rodney, good morning from a lovely Alliance, Ohio. How you doing? Ralph, good time of day. Blasted Samoflage, Southern Ontario. How you doing? Morning from Quebec, on vacation at my parents' house, wondering if it will find my lost second edition Space Marines. Ooh. Simon C., wishing you all well. Jean Bon, I'm assuming. Howdy from the French Alps. Feisty Crabman, good morning from Central Texas. Hope you're doing well. Jebbies, happy Sunday. VJ Morph, greetings from Vegemite Land. How you doing? Everyone's weather still bonkers. It's going to hit 90 here today, and it got super humid last night. It's going to be humid all day, but otherwise it's stupid but bad. But it's stupid but bad. I don't know. It's fine. It's not raining. There's no tornadoes. I guess we got that going for us. Let's see here. Buzzregog. Sunday came fast this weekend. It did. Porting in from Western New York. How you doing, Trimpy? Motorbreath Jazz. Hello. Good morning from Molly, who was playing an immersive dungeon crawler and got jump scared. Nice. Hello from Luxembourg. How you doing? What's cracking from Gilbert, Arizona? Thanks to y'all for thanks for all you do for us, Uncle. Oh, well, absolutely. Let's see here. Jesse Daniel, how you doing? Morning from a sunny, soon-to-be too hot Milwaukee. See you at Gen Con. I'll be at the TT Combat booth. Nice. Even Geekery, listening in from Raleigh, North Carolina, while pittering with one of my homebrew game ideas. Nice. So glad to having every other Sunday. I need it. Absolutely. Slayer Nuke, good morning. Life Blighter, good morning from Pittsburgh. Hope Sunday is treating well. Rare Sunday off, so get to hang out. Nice. John Ashley Smith, how you doing? Let's see here. Jim Crimmins, good morning from New York. Mark Gregory, currently watching from the pub. Neat. Pesler the Polychromatic, good morning from hot and humid Saskatchewan, where the Skyfire inflicts its anger on us all. So which gen is getting conned the most next week? It's a good question. Let's see here. Heyo from Omaha. Sean Leafgreen, how you doing? Hitting some guards of Trader's Troll while I listen. Nice. Sundered Psyche, hope you're doing well. Morning from Kansas, where 90 is a cold front. I mean, it's been absolutely gorgeous this week. There was a day earlier this week, I don't know, Tuesday or whatever, where I just wanted to lay down in the yard and take a nap. It was perfect weather, a little bit of a breeze, no humidity or very little humidity. It was just gorgeous. It was lovely. But today it's supposed to be 90. It got real humid starting yesterday afternoon. My plan initially was I was going to, because I still have to record 2 more videos before I leave on Wednesday morning for Gen Con. So I was going to record them today, but it's going to be really gross in the studio. And also, this whole week, we've had this massive air show in town, and today is technically the last day, but they're still going to do the air show. And evidently this year air show means, hey, let's get some, jet and just, rock ass all over the sky for 4 hours. And it's just an incredible amount of noise, and it's really annoying. So it's really hard to record during that time. And luckily, it only goes from about noon until 6 o'clock. So anyway, but today's the last day. So my plan is to get up early tomorrow, well, early for me, and record those 2 videos, then edit one of them on Monday before I have to stream, and then get that done, hopefully, or pretty close to done, and then do the other one on Tuesday, and then I should be good. It will also give me extra time because I have to get the podcast finished to so it'll go live tomorrow. It's a lot of things that have to get done before I go to the convention. People ask why I don't go on vacation. It's because I have to work twice or 3 times as hard ahead of time to get things done so I can go on vacation. So and this is not a vacation. I've got meetings and stuff, but still, it's still a generally usually lovely time. And the weather's not supposed to suck too bad there, so that'll be good. Yeah. Let's see. Boop boop badoo. Where was I? Watching from the pub, Omaha, cold front. Really bummed this morning. My gaming buddy is moving away. Oh, that's a bummer. Still play online, maybe? Some? I don't know. Morning from New Jersey, listening while making the kiddos pancakes. Nice. Ralph, that doesn't work here. Sorry. Let's see here. DJ Todd P. Harris, how you doing? Good morning from the Philly Burbs, looking at STL files for the 3D printer I acquired yesterday. So many choices. There's so many choices. You're absolutely spoiled for choice in STL files. It also sort of depends on whether it's like a resin printer and you're going to be, printing, little people. Like I have more of these little Human Defense Force models from One Page Rules that I'm going to be painting later. I'm currently painting some on Twitch, but not these. Or if you're doing FDM, like terrain and stuff like that or whatever. Loosely Collected, how you doing? Scott from Columbus, Ohio, first time catching live? Well, congratulations. Glad to have you. Getting this lawn mowed and hope to get some hobby after. Oh, the lawn, yeah. It's been insane humid for several days here in the Northeast. Yeah, like I said, it was gorgeous and like not humid and lovely. And then over the afternoon, it just started to get like stickier and stickier. And then so, I don't know, sometime around 8 o'clock maybe or so last night, I closed all the windows. I was working on editing the podcast and I was doing some laundry and putting that up on the drying rack. And so I closed all the windows and turned on the AC and everything like that. And the AC just kicked in again now. So, but yeah, it was getting real moist. Mike Hawkins, looking forward to meeting you at Gen Con. Well, I'll be there. Wednesday, we should get there probably sometime shortly after lunch, I think, on Wednesday, like, I don't know, 1 or 2 o'clock. And then we're leaving Monday morning. Let's see here. EA fly-in. I would love to attend that Sunday. Yeah, I mean, it's a big deal. Don't get me wrong, but I get real tired of airplane noise by more than halfway through the week. And it turns out George is kind of nervous about loud jets, so that's not awesome. Does the nerd bunker stay cooler than the rest of the house? Yeah, the basement's generally cooler. Yeah. Unfortunately, that also is the case during the winter as well. So yeah, in the summer it's great. In the winter it's not as great. One of the reasons why I generally wear a knit cap when I'm streaming in the winter, or even in the fall sometimes. Try living near an Air Force base. They do touch and goes just about 24/7. Yeah. Terrence, how you doing? Good time of day. Was going to listen and putter on a project, but if we want to see the Odyssey at 10 a.m. screening, makes the most sense. Absolutely. 101 degrees here today and all week, 99. Yeah, that's no good. That's no good at all. Planning to do some repaint on my Necromunda gangs for Gang War. Nice. So I might not want to share, but do you get to write off expenses, trips like this when you have meetings and such? Yeah, I mean, I guess in taxes, you put that stuff on your taxes. I give it to my accountant I don't know exactly what she does with it. I don't know how that all works, frankly. But yeah, you do, like, I can basically declare um, mileage to drive there. If I was flying, then I could declare the airline cost or whatever. Um, and then like hotel and food. I think, yeah, pretty sure. I always just give her all the receipts and she figures it out. So, but yeah, like if I go to a show that I'm not doing anything at, which was rare these days, now that I'm gonna think of it. But like every once in a while I go to a show where I'm not doing anything, then I don't, Like earlier this year, Sam and I went to a little show called TundraCon. TundraCon? I think so. We went there for like a day and I didn't, declare any of that because we just went and checked it out and stuff like that. Did get to play some Blackout, so that was fun. Where was I? Reprint. The video about the damned army box was awesome. Well, thank you. I love that these lines leave you with so many leftover bits. Yeah, I agree. Just like Frostgrave and Stargrave. My favorites are the monkey heads from Stargrave. Yeah, yeah. As someone who runs their own small business, I know the feels for having to work more before and after taking off. Stress goes up either side of the holiday, negating the holiday itself. Yeah. Again, this is one of the reasons why, like, my wife and I haven't gone on a vacation since 2008. We went to Seattle in 2008. Of course, back then I didn't name it. Well, I was not self-employed. I didn't even have the channel at all back then. So yeah. Let's see here. Visiting a friend and his cat just pushed something heavy and metal off of a shelf. Now everyone's awake. That'll do it. Yeah, yeah. Heard you say you have meetings. Any scheduled army painter duties? I don't think so. I reached out and asked if they needed any help at the booth, and they said probably not. I still might end up having a meeting with, like, if Adam goes, like, Adam's not sure if he's going yet. The last I talked to him, so he might be going. And if not, there are other people who are going who are not the event team. Like the event team is generally Kat, Caleb, and Tim, and then sometimes there's a fourth person. But I know some of the other. There's at least one other person from HQ that is coming over to the convention. I think Ian's going to be there. I don't know if Henning is going to be there. Henning is the CEO. He was there last year. If Henning is there, then I would probably see if he wanted to get together and meet and chat for a bit at some point. But maybe have a cocktail. I don't know. But I don't know that would be an official, meeting or anything like that necessarily per se. Question about 3D printing. I picked up a Bamboo Lab A1. Nice. Printing minis for Trench Crusade. Interesting. However, I'm having trouble breaking arms and weapons while removing supports. Any tips or tricks? I don't generally print miniatures. So that's, like, I usually use my A1 for printing terrain and stuff like that. So I don't really use it for printing miniatures. I know that there are things that you can do. Somebody talked about like a plugin or something like that for Bamboo Lab. Not Bamboo, sorry. Blender. I think there's a plugin for Blender where you can take a pre-supported file that's designed for resin and do something to it so that the supports will work for FDM, but I don't know anything about it. Somebody else here in the chat might be more informed on that. But yeah, I like I said, the only miniatures I've ever printed for, well, they're not that miniature. The only miniatures I've ever printed on my FDM are actually in, you can see their little tiny feet back there on top of that case. It's my two robots for Chrome Rangers, the Snarl game that we did last year. One of them is like probably 5 inches tall, and the other one's like near 8 inches tall. So they're not exactly miniature. You know what I mean? So those are done those are done in the FDM, but normal 28 millimeter scale, I've never actually done that. So printer is an Elegoo Centauri carbon hand-me-down for PLA terrain from a friend who upgraded. Neat. My wife's birthday's coming up. She's a budding YouTuber scrapbooking, about 1,000 subscribers. Nice. And so far, she's been using iMovie on her Mac. What would be a good upgrade for video editing for her? So in my opinion, there's like two. One would be to upgrade to Final Cut Pro, which is, I've been using Final Cut Pro, and I really like it. Now, there's two ways you can get Final Cut Pro these days. Excuse me. One way is you can just pay for it outright, and it costs like $300, but then you just have it, and they give you free updates and all that kind of stuff and everything like that. When I bought my copy of Final Cut Pro, that was the only way you could buy it, and so that's what I did. And yeah, but now they also have a subscription, so you could choose to go that way too. It's like $12.99 a month, but you don't just get Final Cut Pro. You get Final Cut Pro. You get Motion, which is their kind of like After Effects type thing. You get Pixelmator Pro, which is kind of their Photoshop. You get like a whole bunch of different software, all for $13 a month. So that might be useful. But if you don't like subscriptions, which I totally understand, then you could also just go, I'm going to pay $300 and you just have it. So that's something to take a look at. The other option, which is much more, it's cheaper, but much more difficult, it's got a steeper learning curve, is to look into DaVinci Resolve. DaVinci Resolve is made by Blackmagic. They're a company that makes Blackmagic Design. They make cameras a lot. So, but they have this software called DaVinci Resolve, and there's two versions of it. There's the free version, which is free, strangely enough, and then there's a pro version, which is $300. Again, you pay it once and you're done. Honestly, I don't think that the pro version is like, there's not any huge features that are missing in the free version that your average person will miss. The pro version is really for like, literally like, I don't know, maybe like for businesses. And it's like, I don't know, if you're like, if you make videos for a living as part of a business, or I don't even know. Like I have the pro version because I bought one of their cameras one time. And they always throw in, if you buy one of their cameras, then they throw in a free license to basically save you the $300 about buying the pro version. But most people I know that use the free version. So DaVinci Resolve, generally use the free version, and if you're on a Mac, take a look at Final Cut Pro. The thing that's nice is that if she's been using iMovie and Final Cut Pro they're like related. Like if you're used to doing it this way, you'd be like, oh, well, this is nice. Plus also it has all these extra features and benefits and stuff like that. Whereas DaVinci Resolve is going to be kind of a learning curve. It's a very different system than iMovie. So, but yeah. It's 9 a.m. and the temp is rising. I think I missed the window for yard work. I mean, it's a bummer, but sometimes you just don't get to do yard work. That's the way I look at it. If we wanted to say hi, where's a good place to find you at Gen Con? So I'm not like posted up anywhere. I'm kicking around the concept of maybe doing some sort of a meetup. I don't know. Sometimes in the past I've done a meetup. There's a Potbelly sandwich place that's a couple blocks away or whatever. Potbelly is a sandwich shop. It's kind of like Subway, but way better. And I've done meetups at Potbelly before. It's over in the Monument Circle. So maybe I'll do something like that. Keep an eye on Blue Sky or whatever. I'll probably post something, or I don't know, something like that. But otherwise, I'm not going to be like in any specific place. I mean, I've got meetings, but yeah. Do you ever go to North Texas Con? I'm not familiar with that one. No. I've only been to Texas once. It was in 2019. I went to FnordCon, which was the first ever gaming convention held by Steve Jackson Games. It was in Austin. My garage stays cool, and I have 2 fans to keep cool during summer. Winter is a different story. Nice. Flying solo this week with Angela and Declan in the snow, so it's games week here. Decided to get some of my backlog played. Nice. I think those who use it for minis are printing mostly GW-style heroic minis. Could be. TundraCon sounds like it might be held in a big igloo. It's in a hotel, but it's in the winter, so it was like January. One of my most productive years writing for Skyer. I actually got a 1099 and declared my game expenses to offset the revenue. See, I don't declare game purchases or anything like that, or paints, but it like travel and like stuff that's related to that. Yeah, I like cameras. Yes, like I keep all my receipts and all that jazz for like, you know, lighting and cameras and microphones and all that kind of shenanigans. But yeah, not I don't ever go, oh yeah, this game, I totally needed this for reasons that I don't do. I could probably, but I'm just concerned that I would get audited then. Although these days, I don't know if anyone gets audited anymore. Does anybody work at the IRS anymore? I have no idea. I used to schedule extra days off after family vacations to recover from vacation. I need a vacation from my vacation. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Let's see here. Speaking of Army Painter, and as a child of the 80s, I loved their summer skin painting video. I don't think I've seen it. I've seen the thumbnail, but I don't think I've seen it. It hasn't popped up in front of my views thing or whatever. Are you posting any meetup or rally points for you and or Vince? I'm not going, but suspect your fans would have a love way to find you amongst the 70K nerds. Honestly, that wouldn't be a terrible idea either. I should coordinate with Vince and see if we want to do a thing. It's not a bad plan. I'll be meeting with him tonight, so yeah, we'll definitely talk about that. Resin 2 FDM is the plugin for Blender. There you go. There you go. I've not used it. I just heard about it. Wondered if you saw the Warhammer community post about Exodite movement in Kill Team. Outside of rank and flank, those are the most complicated infantry movement rules since Rogue Trader 40K. Baffling. I have the thing here open just because it's always a good idea to have a website open, and I usually start here because I was also checking to see if they had any new stuff about Necromunda, but I don't see anything. Let's go to see all. Skaven, new Warhammer Plus. So did they raise the price of Warhammer Plus as well? I'd heard from someone that they raised the price of Warhammer Plus, but they also are like, yeah, but now you get both models. I'm like, but what if you don't want both models? It's kind of silly, right? And I could be wrong. I don't know why they would do that, but yeah, from what I understand, they also raised the price. But they didn't say that in the article that I read. They're like, oh, look at this. You'll get both of these things, and it's great and everything. But it didn't say anything about, oh, and by the way, it's going to cost more. So Combat Patrol is now live in your app. That's sort of cool, I guess. I'm glad that they're doing that, at least, since they took all of the PDFs off the website for some reason. How do Exodite Dragon Masters fight and kill team? I don't know. That's a good question. Academy, Deathmire. Yeah, they haven't talked about Necromunda since... Last time I talked about Necromunda was during that Q&A thing. And they just answered a couple of questions, which were useful, but yeah, that's it. So I don't know. I'm bummed that they were like, hey, look at this, new edition, and then just radio silence, which, you know, what are you going to do? As far as the Exodites, I don't know. I saw a lot of people who got real excited about them, but Are you and Vince promoting Snarling Badger Studios at Gen Con? No. I mean, we're going to at least a meeting. We're going to meet with our Wargames Atlantic rep. No, not Wargames Atlantic. Jesus. Wargames Vault rep, Steve. We're going to meet with him like we do pretty much every year and just chat about stuff. Yeah, but no, otherwise, I mean, I will sometimes go and talk to people and see, like, if I can find I don't know. I've been thinking about if there's a distributor interested in indie games, that maybe having a conversation and seeing where that goes. Um, there's a couple other different people that I talk to usually about things. A couple of companies that like go to other shows that we don't go to, and it might be nice to have them try to sell our product at those shows, and then so you kind of work with them. Companies like not Indie Press Revolution. Indie Press Revolution, I think, is mostly role playing games. But there's companies like that we've chatted with in the past. So yeah. Let's see here. Been having great success with resin to FDM using the Fat Dragon settings with a 0.2 nozzle. Interesting. That's pretty cool. Nurgle Matthew, how you doing? Awesome to know you're going to Gen Con. Would love to say hi. I've been going to Gen Con since 1992. I think I've missed maybe 3 since 1992. Back when it was in Milwaukee is when I started. Yeah, I still remember my first one. It was crazy. But yeah, so I'm trying to think of the last time that it's been quite a while since the last time I missed. The last time I missed, I was working at the airplane place. And it was just that the airplane show, like, because it was all hands on deck, obviously, when there's 500,000 people in town for the giant airplane convention thing. You couldn't go like, oh, I got a thing I got to go to in Indianapolis, so I got to take that week off. No. But there was times when they sort of overlapped a couple of times, and I think I missed a couple there. But otherwise, yeah, it's been, since at least 2013 or 14. No, it's got to be 2009, 2010, probably since the last time that I missed. It's been quite some time. Let's see here. Afternoon from Erskine, Scotland, getting coffees while working on my Maison Labs for Dead Zone. Neat. Every 20 years ago, we even get some snow in the Granite Belt area of Queensland. Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. Does it like mess up and like nobody knows how to drive in it and stuff like that? Thanks for the answer about the video software. Much appreciated. Absolutely, yeah. Be careful of lettuce sandwich shops for a bit. Not to be a downer, but there are some diarrhea parasites around. Oh, yeah, I get you. Generally, I don't do lettuce on sandwiches. It's not for me usually. Oh, yeah. Diarrhea lettuce and con crud? That'd be no good. Jeez. Michael Strange, how you doing? Tried a Potbellies while traveling this week because I've heard you mention it so much. It was a very good place. Thank you for the recommendation. Yeah, oh yeah, I go to Potbellies. We literally go to Potbellies. Like on Thursdays, generally, I always go to Potbelly, get myself a sandwich, my wife a sandwich, and bring them home for dinner. Like that's pretty much every Thursday. Like if I don't show up on Thursday, then when because I'm like traveling or something like that, next week I'll come in and it'll be like, where were you? Like it's, yeah. Let's see here. So what game, war game, mini hobby thing are you mostly looking forward this year at Gen Con? I never know ahead of time. Like, here's the thing. Here's one of the issues about Gen Con. It is not a convention for miniatures. Like, are there miniature games there? Yes, some. Not a lot, though. It's really much more about RPGs and board games. Those are the main things. The miniature space is pretty small. Companies, obviously, like Games Workshop's got a good sized booth there. Companies are selling paints, like you've got Army Painter and I think Monument has a good sized booth. I don't think I see any of the other companies as much. Maybe that's much more of an Adepticon thing. Who else? Mantic is there. Modifius. although they do a lot of other stuff as well. But Modifius is there. The one thing I am looking forward to at oops, clunk, microphone. Sorry, microphone clunk. Also, what's his name? Steamforge. I'm like Privateer Press. Nope, that's not what. Steamforge Games. They're always there too. I don't know if Trench Crusade is going to be there. That's a good question. I'll have to find out. But I do know that I do want to see XCOM. Modifius Games is making a new miniature game based off of the video game series XCOM. So Ash from Guerrilla Miniature Games just recently did a video. I haven't watched it yet. I take that back. I watched like the first like minute and a half so that it's in my library so I can go back and find it a little bit easier. But I had to go to bed because it was like late. But yeah, so I'm interested in checking that out. I've had a conversation with marketing person from Modifius. And so we're going to try to get together and chit chat a bit during the show. So I'm interested in that. But right now, otherwise, like there's nothing from Games Workshop that I'm interested in at Gen Con generally. And they don't usually release big stuff. They don't do the big previews. For a while they tried doing at Gen Con. They tried doing like the big preview. Well, they didn't try doing a big preview. They tried doing a preview. They couldn't get like a big space to do the preview in. Plus, they also understood that it's not necessarily the type of show to do the big preview at because again, miniatures are a very small part of Gen Con. So they did like 2 smaller previews in like these smaller rooms. And I remember I went to one and Vince went to another one. And then we compared notes later on and found out that the two, they weren't the same. So rather than giving the same presentation twice for different people who could make different times, they gave 2 slightly different presentations. So if you went to the wrong one, you might not hear about the thing that you were interested in, which is sort of stupid. Whatever. That was also the show where I sat there and we had to watch an entire half-hour episode of Hammer and Bolter or one of their animated shows. And I was like, so, yeah, but they don't do that seemingly much anymore. So I don't know. We'll see. The stuff that I end up bringing home is usually stuff that I stumble across that I had no idea was going to be there. So that's one of the great things about Gen Con. I'd probably start packing today. I'll pack Tuesday night. It'll be fine, Tick. I travel enough, and I know you do too, that I can get packed in about 20 minutes if I have to. Has there ever been a game system that you really liked, but due to the model, style, genre, it was a no-go? It's usually the other way around, honestly. There have been games where I like the models and I like the style and I like but then you play the game and the rules suck. That's happened to me more frequently than the other way around. Because honestly, if the rules are great, I can put in my own lore, I can put in my own models, I can do that kind of stuff. But yeah. Saw Ash Barker's playthrough of the Mantic. No, it's not Mantic, it's Modifius, XCOM. But I can see where you would get confused because Mantic, both of those companies do a lot of licensed stuff. Yeah. Wondering if you saw it and if you had any thoughts on it. Like I said, I just watched like the first, I saw he had posted it. I watched like the first minute of it. And then I was like, it's very late and I have to get to bed. But it's in my library, so I can go back and find it easier. I mean, it's not hard to find, it's not hard to find Ash's stuff if you remember that it's from Ash, you know what I mean? But still. Just started Operation Exodite Ruins on the P1S. We'll see how that goes in 10 hours. Nice. Morning from Wisconsin. How you doing? Have you seen the new Odyssey movie? I heard it's pretty good. I'm going to go see it later tonight. No. Yeah, I don't know when I'm going to. Here's what I want to do, really, is I want to see if there's a way that I can watch it on the smallest screen possible. Like if I could watch it completely on my Apple Watch, that would make me happy. I like many of Christopher Nolan's movies, but his like absolute insistence that you should see it on the biggest possible screen ever. Like he was a real kind of jerk during the pandemic where like he was like we were all watching the movie, first run movies that were coming out on like HBO Max or whatever and stuff like that. And he was such a jerk about it, about like Tenet, which was not great as it turned out. I don't think it needed to be on the big screen. That's for damn sure. And so yeah, it's the fact that it was completely shot in IMAX and all this fancy shenanigans. I'm like, yeah, but what if I watched it on my phone? What if I could watch it on my watch instead, coming from my phone? I would probably do that just to spite him. We'll watch it someday on TV. It'll be on some streaming service, and then we'll watch it. I'll sit farther away from the television. It'll be great. Cancel my Warhammer Plus. Yeah, I don't like. What was it now? $4.99. I don't know what the new price is. What Mac do you have? I was looking at upgrading my old MacBook to a Mac Mini, but the AI fanboys are buying them up for some reason. I'll have to order one in. So my main Mac here is a Mac Studio. So it's a bigger, chunkier box. It's like, I don't know, it's not huge, but it's like, I don't know, hang on, I have a tape measure. It is about nearly 8 inches square, and it is about under 4 inches high, and it's just one block of aluminum, and it's cool. It's not cheap, but it is pretty powerful, and it's cool, and I'm glad. Mine is a little bit older now at this point. I've had it for 3 years probably. This is a M2, M2 Max, M2 Pro. M2 Max. Max, I think, is better than Pro. I beefed it up to 64 gig of RAM, and yeah, it's been real nice. I know all the prices went up recently on Macs, so that's going to be a problem. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, I think you should just idle your motorcycle outside my house. Thanks, Pantsload. Anyway, but the MacBook Pros are also nice. I have this one. I do have a Mac Mini as well, which I am going to deploy in the basement eventually. That's going to be my new streaming PC, and it's really tiny. It's like real small. And but that one's an M4. I think they make M5s now, maybe. I could be wrong, but it's an M4. I got them back when they were still like $600. It's a nice little box. It'll be great. And then I also have an M4 MacBook Pro laptop. Yes, those are the 3 Macs that I've got. GW, so the price will always go up. Yeah, they definitely did raise the price. Yeah, I don't know what it is though. As soon as they said that Warhammer Plus would give you both models and an annual yearbook, I knew GW would be raising the price. They never give you anything for free. It's an extra 21 for a year. I see. Okay. I was weak and got the Exodites. I like the Dragon Elven vibe, and there are lots of scratch terrain ideas from GW. Who would have thought? I'm not saying anyone's wrong for buying that stuff. If you like the models, I mean that's awesome. Or even if you like the game or whatever, that's cool. I'm just not into elves much. Kill team, not super into dragons or dinosaurs or whatever they are, but happy every other Sunday. How you doing? Hopefully I can run you at Gen Con. Absolutely. Hi, all from sunny Toronto, painting up some Necrons today. How you doing? XCOM is by Modifius. I think Mantic would be competing with itself if they had that in Halo. That's a good point. Good point. Blue 9, hope you're doing well. Sorry I'm tardy. It's okay. Good morning from Southern New Jersey. Missing Gen Con this year, but can't wait to see you at PAX in December. I do plan on going to PAX in December. I'm not 100% sure that it will happen, but it is the plan. It's just not nailed down yet. I will probably try to have it. Well, if I can get a minute, I'll have a conversation with Kat about it while I'm at Gen Con. I'm also hoping to probably have dinner with Kiko from Penny Arcade. We've been chatting back and forth. We usually just because Penny Arcade usually has a booth. Last several years, I'll walk by, wave, we'll start talking, and then he'll have a couple of people working in the booth with him, and then he and I will go across the aisle so that we're not like blocking the booth, and then we'll sit there and like talk wargaming and stuff like that for like an hour. That's been generally what's going on. But they've also lately been staying kind of far away. The hotels have been far away. Well, this year they're staying downtown. So we're going to try to do dinner at some point. I don't know if Jerry's going, aka Tycho. He was there last year, but I don't know if he's going this year. But at least Kiko. So yeah, I don't know what Eric either, or Mike, aka Gabe. Let's see here. Do you ever attend the fly-in? When I was a kid, I used to go with my dad sometimes. Well, I take that back. We would hang out in the Hardee's parking lot across the street from the, and we would watch the air show from there. And then years later, I had a friend who could get me like a wristband, so you would go in. And then I worked at EAA from 2007 to 2015. So I worked technically 9 air shows because I started in 2007, like 3 days before the air show started, and my position was eliminated in 2015, just after the air show. So, well, like a month after, maybe a little bit more. But anyway, but since 2015, when my position was eliminated, I have not been out there. So no. Surprised you aren't selling copies of some of your mini games like Tanks of the Apocalypse zine style there this year, but I get it. Where at Gen Con? Yeah, like there was a year some time ago. I think when the first game came out, we got a local store who has a booth there. We basically got like they kept a box of our games there. So if people came and asked, because we would tell people, hey, if you're at Gen Con and you want to pick it up, you can go to this booth, and then they would basically bring it from like underneath the counter or whatever. But that was sort of a pain in the butt. Didn't know you were formerly in the air industry. I work for an airline. I basically worked, like I said, at EAA. I was a web designer. So yeah, with EAA is the Experimental Aircraft Association, for people who are wondering. It was started in 1953 as a club for people who wanted to build their own airplanes. And it has grown. I don't know how big it is these days. When I left in 2015, it was 180, I think, thousand members worldwide, and it was just airplane enthusiasts. It wasn't just like people who want to build their own airplanes, although there was plenty of those folks as well, but there are also people who liked to fix airplanes, people who just thought aviation was neat, people who were pilots, like all kinds of different stuff. They were taking in all kinds. Every summer at the end of July, they have this big, massive fly-in convention, giant hootenanny. 500,000 people come. It's a week long. It makes a lot of noise if you live here. Yeah. I read that the lack of snow in Victoria is killing the ski resorts. Oh, wow. Taking a break from Gen Con this year, maybe next year too, possibly reducing my big convention down just to Adepticon for a couple of years. Might sneak a Historicon or PAX U in there somewhere. Gotcha. Taking a wander through Artist Alley for ideas and possible projects. I do go through and sometimes get business cards and stuff like that, so I can be like, hey, this person might be a good fit. I don't think we've used anyone from Artist Alley yet, but I do like take pictures and business cards and stuff like that, so I've got, if I need to. Good morning from Soupy and Sticky, Central Indiana, trying out automotive filler primer on some of my earlier 3D prints. Nice. The snow doesn't form that much anywhere. You have to go hunting in the bush for it. My mother experienced it as a child, and her description is like when you de-ice your top freezer. Interesting. Monster Fight Club. Oh, yeah. Monster Fight Club will be there. Yep. They always have a cool booth. OPR will be in the Craft Tunnel. Oh, okay, cool. I thought the Craft Tunnel was screwy this year. I saw some pictures that they because they were fixing some stuff. So I don't know, but that's cool. I'll definitely stop by there as well. I think Trench Crusade will be there. They have a big ad in the con book. No kidding. That's cool. Morning from Omaha. 115 degrees heat index today. There will be no outdoor activities. Yeah, no, that's no fun. You don't want that. Slicing up a 2 foot by 2 foot second Dynasty Grid Forge board today. This is going to be a fantastic terrain set for space weirdos and for some legitimate salvage terrain. Nice. OPR is a great idea and rule set. Glad that they're mini agnostic because I do not like the style of their minis at all. Oh, that's interesting. I like the HDF specifically. I love the Human Defense Force. I love the robots, the Robot Legion. The Space Lizards are pretty cool. I think those are the only ones that I've painted. I do not like OPR's lore, so what I tell people when they see us playing OPRs, we're playing 40K with better rules, or when I'm feeling chaotic, I would say we play 40K for dummies. I mean, that's the thing, is you don't need to use anyone's lore ever. So if you want to play 40K lore but with OPR rules, tons of people do that all the time. That's fine. Did you see the new Warhammer Academy? I saw them talk about it a little bit. I don't isn't that just YouTube? Like, I don't understand what they're doing. They're like, oh, hey, we're going to teach you how to print or how to, build and paint minis. And I'm like, yeah, you do that already. You have a YouTube channel. So does everybody else. It just seems weird. Like, is it something you have to pay for? Probably. I assume so, but maybe not. I guess. I don't know. Like, here's what they need to do. They need to make an academy where they teach you about what you need to buy to play their game. Because they still kind of don't really make that super clear. You know what I mean? They'll be like, here's a starter box. And you're like, yeah, but what about this and this and this? And they're like, well, I guess you should buy them all and try it out. Okay, cool. Hello, Uncle Adam. Tuning in from New York State, 6 hours straight north from the city. How you doing? The Hallmark Odyssey was great. There's a hill I'll die on. Never much of a fan of Nolan. Even his Batman isn't like the comics. I mean, I like the Batmans. I like his Batman stuff. I like Interstellar. I like... Tenet is interesting to watch. I just don't know what the heck is going on, and neither does anybody else. Con tip, start drinking Emergen-C once a day before the con and then every day during the con. Boosts your immune system. Helped my wife and I avoid the con crud last year at Gen Con. Interesting. I think I most want to know about the co-op aspect of it. Of XCOM? 64 gig, is that a part of your retirement portfolio? Back then, it wasn't nearly that much money. I mean, admittedly, when you up the amount of, like, it was a 32 gig machine. Like, the base price for the Mac Studio at the time was $2,000, and that was with 32 gig. If you wanted to beef it up to 64 gig, I think it cost an extra $600, which at the time was crazy. You're like, oh my God, there's no way that much extra RAM is $600, but that's just the way that Apple's always done it. Of course, now you'd be lucky to get that much RAM for $600. You know what I mean? Because everything's gone to crap. So yeah, but this machine, like I said, it's probably almost 3 years old, but it still works great. I'm still, editing multiple streams of 4K and all kinds of all that kind of stuff. And it just is just like, yeah, whatever, dude. So that's fine. I will hopefully, after the AI bubble pops, and if we don't all have to resort to cannibalism, then when prices come back down again, I may upgrade. We'll see how it goes. Speaking of cannibalism, if you get the chance, and if you have Apple Plus or whatever it's called, Apple Plus, there's this great show on there called Widow's Bay, which is spectacular. It's kind of like a horror TV show, but it's also a comedy. It's like its first season, it got like nominated for like 19 Emmys. It's like really, really, really good. But yeah, cannibalism reminded me of that show. Yearly Warhammer Plus went from $60 to $75. Monthly went up to $849. Wow. Man. Jesus. I mean, admittedly, yeah, sure, you get some models or whatever, and you get a book. Okay. But what if you just wanted, like, they should have a tier for people who are like, I just need the app to work. You're making me pay for this app for some reason. I just need it to work. I don't care about those models. Like, do they have a tier for that where you can just pay for just app access so you can build your own, build your lists? Crazy. I am really glad to see the Exodites get miniatures after all these decades, but I would run them in other games for sure. Well, yeah, I can see that. I think I'm out of cons until Origins or Adepticon. I would like to go to Origins, but it's so close to TMX that I'm too tired. Like this year, it was like I would have gotten done with the TMX on Sunday. On Monday, I would rest. And then on Wednesday, I would have had to go to Origins. So that, yeah, not really. Got to bounce early. Got sun stuff to do for my mom. I'll watch the rest of the stream later. Absolutely. Hello from Croatia. How you doing, Andrew? Let's see here. You've probably been asked, but what do you think of the cut it out and glue it together Exodite terrain piece templates on the Warcom site right now? I have no idea what you're talking about. Let's see if I can find out what we're talking about here. Latest news. See the full rules. Is this it? No, well, I don't think so. I just feel like 11th edition has destroyed terrain. You know what I mean? Like it's just like you have these goofy, like it's, why don't we just go to mouse pads like they used to in War Machine? Like why it's not, let's just do that. And that if we're going to do that, why don't we just make it a video game? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. The whole concept of the terrain thing is not, it's not my jam. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see. Haven't they been selling, what the heck? Standalone Kill Team boxes. These have all been out for a while. I think I own the Beast Dudes, and I got a Kasrkin box somewhere. That's weird. Anyway, yeah, no, I am hoping that Necromunda is cool, but we don't know. The town I'm in has a relay point for the air race. I'm right next to the airport, so they fly right over me. Oh, that's cool. The thing that I always thought was the most interesting to some degree when I was working there was it wasn't the air race. It was another type of competition. It was like short takeoff and landing. And they would have these planes that are designed to use like up in Canada. Like if you're, and they would like, basically they're like a Cessna type of thing or whatever, I don't know. And they would fly in and land with as short amount of runway as possible. And then the other idea was to take off with as short amount of runway as possible. And they would have these competitions to see how short of a takeoff and how short of a landing they could make. And these planes would get lighter and lighter and lighter. And the guys would show up to fly them and they would like, well, I'm going to take off my belt because it probably weighs like, a quarter of a pound or whatever. And they're just like shedding weight so they can, yeah, it was really interesting. Going to my first Gen Con next weekend and hope to see you there. Big fan of tabletop gaming, and I know you've said before that it's not as popular as other categories. Well, tabletop gaming is hugely popular at Gen Con. That's the entirety of Gen Con. Tabletop wargaming, that's a slightly different story. I forgot about BattleTech. BattleTech does have a decent-sized contingency going on there too, so that's a good thing to find there as well. But I would say BattleTech probably does as big at Gen Con as they do at Adepticon, whereas none of the other companies do that. They're bigger at Adepticon than they are at Gen Con usually. Yeah, well, Games Workshop might throw a little bit of a bigger show at Gen Con because they have the booth and then they have a bunch of stuff going on outside the booth. But nonetheless, but yeah. Hello, my name is Lonnie, and I'm a big fan of your videos. I'm a big fan of keep doing what you're doing. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Line must go up, indeed. Catch the rest on VOD. Work sending me OTR. Got to get things ready to go. Gotcha. Stopped by in GW years ago. They got too greedy, and in many situations it's the case. I want to know about the co-op of XCOM. Yeah, like I said, I mean, from what I understand, it's written by Ivan Sorensen, who does 5 parsecs from home and 5 leagues from the Borderlands and all those games. And I don't know that it's a direct. I mean, I guess it could be the exact same game engine. I don't know though. I'm not sure, but I want to find out. So yeah. I was shocked to see GW advocating for scratch-built terrain. They're putting out templates so you can build Eldar terrain out of cardstock. See, I haven't heard about that. Like, from what I understood, like, because with 11th edition, they've made all these, like, shapes that you're supposed to put underneath all your terrain. And if you're playing, like, match play, like, this is the official, like, they've shown all these diagrams of, like, oh, you're supposed to put it at this angle, and it's supposed to be 12 inches from this side, and exactly 6.5 inches from here, and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, ugh. Like, that's not for me, I'll be honest. I like OPR rules, but I still dig GW minis. What I save on rules, I sink into a mini budget. It's a vicious cycle. I mean, at least it's cheaper, to some degree. Like, if you had to, buy as many of those miniatures, but then also have to pay 70, $80 for a book, that's something. Sounds like old school GW when they did tutorials in White Dwarf. Nice. Saw The Odyssey yesterday afternoon. Tremendous movie. Well, that's cool. Super excited for the Carcass front box. There's only a few days left for the release. It got bumped back, FYI. Yeah, it was originally supposed to release really soon, and I think it got bumped back to the end of August. I saw a thing on Facebook, or I got an email or something like that. There was a problem, some sort of technical problem, and so, yeah, the Carcass front box got pushed back a bit. So like I said, I think it's supposed to be closer to the end of August. Looked up hard drive prices yesterday. My jaw dropped at least 3 times the price they used to be in some cases. Oh yeah, I've had a 4 terabyte external hard drive. I don't remember who. SanDisk? I don't know. It was somebody in my what do you call it? My Amazon list. Like wish list. I've had one in there for a while just because I was like, oh, I'm going to pick this up. And it used to be like $220, $250, somewhere around there for a 4 terabyte. Recently I looked, it's $899. I'm like, you guys are crazy. Speaking of AI, did you see the trailers drop for the Neuromancer show and Blade Runner 2099 show? I saw the Neuromancer trailer, or teaser, I guess, technically. I did not see, I just found out today about the Blade Runner 2099 show. I haven't seen the trailer for it, but that makes sense that they would do it because it's Comic-Con or whatever. I was bummed when they were like, oh yeah, Neuromancer's coming out in 2070 or 2027. And I was like, I was told it was going to be end of this year. Well, it's technically January 22nd of 2077 or 2027. So I'm like, okay, well, that's pretty close. Like I thought they meant like mid 2027. But they meant very beginning part of 2027. But I thought it was going to be late 2026, which it's pretty close. That's fine. So I'm looking forward to that one. I haven't even seen the Blade Runner 2099 show teaser or anything like that, so I'll have to, check that out. Are you hosting any games at GameCon this year? Gen Con? No. Or GameCon. I don't know what GameCon is, but Gen Con, no, I don't. I don't generally run events there. It's been years since I've done that, and I haven't in a long time. What are your thoughts on Atomic Mass games? I wanted to play Legion. I built and painted an 800-point Legion army for Star Wars Legion. Then they changed the rules and made it so you needed 1,000 points. And so I haven't played. The Marvel game does not tickle my fancy. I don't like the scale that much, and the actual game style is like meh. And then when they came out with the Star Wars one, Shatterpoint, I thought that seems redundant, and it seems to have been because now they're like dialing back on Shatterpoint, which is a bummer. Yeah, I don't know. I like I said, I wanted to play Legion, and then they changed everything, and so now I'm going to have to build and paint more dudes, and that still may happen. I've got like one friend that we were thinking about playing it. Star Wars Legion stopped in this area when they made that change. It just people stopped playing and they went and played something else. So that was, I think there's something to be said about deciding to come out with a new edition. Like in certain companies, like, Games Workshop seems to be able to come out with a new edition every 3 years and people, bend over backwards and it's great. But there's other companies who are like, hey, new edition. And people are just like, well, I'm out. You know what I mean? Like, so maybe don't do that. I don't know. What are you going to do? But anyway, yeah. I don't know anybody who works at Atomic Mass anymore. I used to. Guy I know named Ross used to work there, but he left and now he works for Critical Role. Not sure why it didn't show for you. It's one of their most recent posts. Is it the pre-order one here? Pre-order combat patrol. Here's some sort of terrain set. Can also get 3 parts of the combat patrol battle zone terrain. No. Previously announced ready painted terrain will come out at a later. Oh God, that ready paint. These guys I want to buy separately. These guys are cool models, but I didn't want the other ones. Like I didn't want them in the box because the box was the one where they were fighting against like the single like Tyranid or whatever. I was like, those Tyranids are. Ugh. I just was not a fan of those models, but these models are kind of cool, kind of. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't see it. Haven't seen the new terrain rules. Leave it to GW, make it worse. They just, like I said, they put in like there's these templates that are a certain size. If you're playing again matched play, kind of like tournament play. If you're just playing like you and your friends, you don't have to pay attention to anything. You can do what you want, but Fat tire bush planes are crazy. I've seen them take off in 10 feet. Oh, yeah. There's a company that makes those planes almost completely out of carbon fiber, so they're as light as possible. I forget that they're basically bush planes. That's what they call them. I'll be at Gen Con Thursday. Is that a good day for stuff? I don't want to wait forever to get into things. I mean, Thursday. It's interesting because some years, like most years, Thursday's pretty busy. And then some years it'll go like Thursday's busy and then Friday's busy and then Saturday's crazy busy and then Sunday's a little bit less. But there's other times when it's like Thursday's busy and then Friday is kind of light and then Saturday's busy or whatever. It kind of goes up and down. And sometimes it's just vibes. Like we'll be talking about it, the group that I go with, we'll be talking about it afterwards, like in the evening or whatever, and be like, I think it was like super busy today and compare, and it kind of depends. And sometimes people will be like, oh, I didn't think it was that busy. So no one knows, like we don't know numbers until the end where they go, oh, there was this many people. We know that it's generally 72,000 because they've been capping it at 72,000 and then putting out signs saying sold out. So if you just decide to rock up at the last minute and go, oh, I'm going to buy a badge, if you don't have your badges at this point for Gen Con, you might want to look into it real quick because they're going to sell out. Like I think 4-day badges are already sold out, but I could be wrong on that. But daily badges are also a thing to keep an eye on. But for years, they just never sold out because they would just keep doing it. But they figured out that right around 72,000 was like the max amount of people they could have in the amount of space that they have access to right now in Indianapolis. Link to the templates is a yellow go-to link in that article. Oh, okay. My purchase of a 3D printer was motivated by the price GW wanted for Armageddon. Fun fact, it was cheaper. I bet it was, yeah. Short takeoff and landing contests remind me of a start-stop contrast between show and shines, except in that case, people just burn out until their tires are unusable. I don't know what a show and shine is. Hi from Richmond, Virginia. Always fun to catch a show live since you are talking about cons. Still do Nova Open for you this year? Nope, no Nova. Article starts with go get your cereal boxes. Well, that's fun. There's a little part of me that is deeply sad about hardware prices, but it's forcing me to consider more analog hobbies, and that's probably a good thing in the long run for me. Yeah, I agree. I made a video about that a while back, and I don't know, people got mad at me about it a little bit in the comments, but maybe it was because I was being just a scotch harsh, where it was basically like, hey, this is actually good for us. The video game industry's pain is our gain, which is maybe the wrong tack to take. But I mean, it's self-inflicted. This is an own goal by the tech industry, where they're just like, why don't we just only sell to these morons, who are building these data centers and need all this stuff, and then we just won't sell to pesky, whatever clients, business, the end consumer. Screw those guys. Well, that's going to come back to roost, because at some point, either other RAM manufacturers are going to spin up and now you're going to be scrambling a little bit, or more likely, what will happen is the bubble will pop, those data centers will turn into laser tag arenas that nobody wants to go to, and then all of a sudden you're going to be out there hat in hand saying, will you please buy my RAM for 38 cents on the gigabyte? And I don't know, hopefully a bunch of us will be smart enough to be like, how about 37? You know what I mean? But we'll see. I don't know. Either way, these little plastic guys and stuff like that, the RAM doesn't, there's no effect as far as I'm concerned. Had to finance a new GPU or CPU once paid off. I will need to get a GPU. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy expensive. The computer, which is just over here, you guys can't see. It is made by a company called Geekcom, and it is a little mini PC, and I can play Brotato on it at 144 frames a second. It's awesome. It was like $700. Games that are more taxing, not so much. But for a lot of the just weird little indie things that I like to play, it's working just fine. I tried to play The Witcher on it, and it's a little slow. It's like, not great. So, what are you going to do? I thought maybe The Witcher, I could go through and I could tweak a bunch and go, oh, I want to change this and change that and try to get it so it's just, but I kind of also don't care to do that. I'm not much of a PC player because I don't want to tinker. I'm tired of it. I just don't want to do it. So that's why I've been mostly playing, console stuff. So I've got a PS5. If I want to play The Witcher 3 on there, it'll be fine. It'll be great. Like I said, I kind of thought this thing was going to be a little bit more powerful, this little Geekcom, but for, everything is crab, Brotato. I've been playing this game recently called Replaced, like all kinds of like indie stuff. It's a champ. It's just as soon as you start trying to get into like slightly fancier, like big 3D vistas and things like that, that it starts to get a little sad because, it is what it is. But it also costs $700, even in this economy. So Molly Millions looks amazing. Yeah, I thought the stuff from the Neuromancer trailer that I saw looked really cool. Place I was getting parts from had a fire and is out of business. Well, that's no good. I was interested in Gundam Assemble, but other than the starter, the prices look very GW-like. Yeah, they're definitely like, oh, it's only a $35 starter, but everything else is surprisingly more expensive, like a lot more. And also, in my opinion, I think it's literally a gateway game between Gundam folks and miniature folks. So it rides that line, which I don't care about Gundam, so I don't need that. But also, it's a hex-based game, which I just don't like hex-based games. So for me, it's not going to be something I'm going to do. Will I pick it up at Gen Con? No, probably not. No, I don't think so. If they have the starters for $35, I might grab one just to have one because it's $35 or whatever, but otherwise, no. According from Richmond, Virginia, I look forward to Flying Frog Productions booth at Gen Con. Flying Frog always has a cool booth. They always got a lot of stuff. I saw transparent acrylic terrain meant for competitive play for 40K. The main selling point was that you wouldn't forget about enemy units that you couldn't see. That was soul crushing. Yeah, that just is god awful. Let's just I want to just use tokens and clear acrylic terrain, and then we don't need to paint any of our miniatures or make anything look cool, and it'll be great. Yeah, it'll be awesome. Again, why don't you play a video game? In my opinion. Good morning, Adam. You've got started on your new Wargames Atlantic Trader Guardsman style kits. I've done some. I have done. Let's see. I painted like 5 of them for the video I did about a month or 2 months ago. I think it might have been May. I did a video about using historic paints on sci-fi miniatures, and those are the ones I did it on. And then the ones that were in the video that went live Friday, there were like 3 or 4 models in there that were, some of them were like mixes, but a couple of them were just like straight, just the damned, models. And they were primed and given a zenithal. And now I've started painting them, but I'm not going to get a chance to mess with them again until I get back from Gen Con. So, but I want to build a list for OPR. I want to build a Grimdark Future Firefight list first, which is the skirmish game of like Trader Guard guys, and then use those models for that, I think, and then see where I can go from there. But I also might try to do a full-blown army. We'll see. I don't blame GW for the terrain issues. The game plays fine if you just use the terrain layouts as guide. It is the players that take an hour setting up and measuring every angle for perfect place. It's just because they've leaned so far into the competitive scene. Like that's a concern that I have with the new Necromunda. I'm really hoping they don't try to make it like a competitive type game. You know what I mean? Kind of like they did with Kill Team. You know what I mean? Like I really hope they just leave it to be like, this is a story game. Meh, you know what I mean? Like I'm really hoping they don't mess with that. Sad to hear, but I can wait 1 more month for the box. Gives me more time to make my own Trench Crusade terrain. Indeed. Been very keen for Blade Runner 2099. Been reading the graphic novels by Titan Comics. Enjoyable, but I struggled to read Neuromancer back in the day. Going to give it another go now. I read it once, and yeah, I can understand what you mean by the struggle. It was a little... Like, I've read a bunch of Gibson's stuff. Neuromancer was fine, but it didn't go down as easily as, let's say, Snow Crash does by Stephenson. But I did enjoy it anyway. I'm just looking forward to a TV show version of it, I think. I read a book that he did that also got turned into a TV show called The Peripheral. And yeah, the TV show is way easier to understand. The book was like, I was just about halfway through the book, and I'm like, I still don't know what the heck is going on. It would switch chapters. It would switch to a completely different group of people in like this weird situation, and it had nothing to do with the other group of people. And I was like, what is going on? And then I went and looked it up because I'm like, what is this? And then I found out that what was going on. And then if I had read just a little bit further, all of a sudden it was going to become clear, but I was halfway through the book. And I read an interview with him, and he's like, yeah, I want people to be confused till about halfway through the book. And I'm like, so anyway, I like his work, but sometimes it does take a bit of patience. But so, yeah, I don't know. I'm looking forward to the TV show. I am. Anyone ever attend the auction at Gen Con? I got me and Tick Paints, who's in the chat here. We got a friend who like lives at the auction. Tick and I went to the auction last year just to check it out. I had never really been, and it was interesting. But yeah, we got a friend who's there every day. It's just like he hangs out with his friends there. It's like the group that it's the auction is crazy. All they had to do to make Shatterpoint a success was to use the same scale as Legion because people would use the minis interchangeably. They didn't want to, though, because Legion was dumped in their lap. Like, Atomic Mass Games made Marvel Crisis Protocol at the big size, the 40 millimeter, all that kind of stuff. And then when Asmodee wiggled a bunch of crap around, they threw a bunch of Star Wars stuff on top of Atomic Mass Games. And Atomic Mass Games didn't want that stuff. You can kind of tell because they got rid of it, or they stopped making Armada sales, admittedly. They stopped making Star Wars X-Wing, which, whatever. was kind of stupid, but whatever. And then I feel like they wanted to stop making Legion, but it sold well enough that they couldn't. And it sells better than Shatterpoint. But when they made Shatterpoint, they're like, well, if we put Shatterpoint out there, then people will stop playing Legion and they'll play Shatterpoint. And they didn't, because that the 40 millimeter scale makes sense when you're dealing with superheroes to some degree, especially because you can find terrain in that scale more easily if you go to a shop that sells like train stuff. I forget what the scale is, N scale in trains, but you can find like modern looking buildings in N scale and you just be like, boom, put those on the table and you're great. But when you're trying to find Star Wars looking buildings in that size, you can't find those at your local train store. So then they had to crank out a bunch of terrain, and it's just a whole thing. You're right. They would have done way better if they would have made it a game that was Legion size, but then they would have been like, but then it's going to cannibalize our models. And you're like, or maybe you just have one model line and it would make, I don't know. It's all crazy. Hopefully he scrolls down to where I linked it and mentioned it soon. I haven't seen any links. I don't think I see links. I haven't seen a link yet. I don't think YouTube does links. The auction at Gen Con way back in the day was great. I gave up on Gen Con after the ownership change and the Indy move. I've really liked it being at Indy. I liked Milwaukee because it was close. It was like a 90-minute drive instead of a 6.5-hour drive, but Indy is nice. I like it. On the mention of additions, do you think the bolt action may have the same fate as Legion? I don't know. I mean, bolt action's their big game over at Warlord, so I don't know that that's the case. Maybe. I don't think so, though. I've just recently bought some of the Army Painter speed paints bottles. Can hear the steel balls in them when I shake them, ready for mix and painting. Yep. Yeah, they put the steel balls inside the all their paints, honestly, at this point now. I did like Crisis Protocol, but couldn't afford to keep playing it. I can understand that, yeah. I like the scale for it personally, but I have old eyes and bigger models help. Like, for me, it wasn't so much the models, it was just the terrain thing. Like, one of the benefits to most games being 28 millimeters, it's very easy to go, well, I got a piece of terrain that'll work for that. Whereas with games like, Marvel, because it rarely happens out in a field or out in a, like, you know what I mean? Like a rocky crag has no scale. You could use a rocky crag piece of terrain that you've made, and it would work with 6 millimeter Battletech up to 40 millimeter, Marvel Crisis Protocol. It would be fine. Trees, a little bit, but like weird rocky crags, cliffs, hills, things like that. But the thing is that Marvel game isn't really played out in the wilderness too much. It's generally played in, like a city. And so, yeah, it's a thing. Article from the 23rd, build your own Exodite terrain with free templates. From the 23rd, bow down to Archaon. Combat Patrol is live in your app. New Galaxy in Flames. See, I don't see unless they consider it not to be news. Is it a latest? Oh, here we go. All right, there we go. So it's a feature. It's not news. How about just ads? Everything is ads. Is this what you're supposed to build out of cardboard? They expect you to build these things out of cardboard? Are they high? Like, why would they do that? Like, how are you supposed to do that? How are you supposed to build this thing out of cardboard with all the etching in it and all that kind of stuff? I got an idea. How about some STL files? If you want people to have this weird looking doohickey, then how about you make an STL file so people can 3D print it? I don't know. Here, make this out of cereal box. Are you crazy? Jesus. All right. Well, that was crazy. Let's see here. Is a unified base for units a thing in paint competition? Entered my first paint competition at a con. First, they told me I needed a ticket. Went to registration, got a ticket, and came back. Then came back and they said it needed a unified base so that judges didn't need to handle the models. Bought dice tray for base and entered. I don't even know what that means. I don't know what a unified base is. Well, I mean, it's generally like you want to have a base on your model. Like, did you just bring a model just like freestanding? Like he wasn't standing on any kind of base at all? Or I guess I don't know what that means. Exodite campaign book looks cool. Well, that's good. It'll be interesting to do some Zenithal painting with them. I'm a bit interested in giving them a go. Hi from Bridgend in South Wales. Hope you are well. Just finishing off my 2 linebackers for Conflict 47. Oh, yeah, the mechs. One's called Black Widow and the other one is Scarlet Witch. Neat. Got my 4-day badge a few months ago. Nice. Show and Shine. Car club event where people shine cars and then bring them to a show. Okay. All bubbles burst. It's true. I used to love it. So when I was a kid, my mom smoked, which was not awesome necessarily. But the cool thing is that in the summer when you had bubbles, my mom would like smoke and then blow bubbles into the smoke thing, like that, and then it would make these smoke bubbles, and then they would float around and they would fall down and they'd hit the grass and they would touch the grass, they would pop, and then you would get this little puff of smoke. It was cool. As a kid, I thought that was the neatest thing. And then I smoked for 10 years from 20 to 30. And I don't think I I don't think I was blowing any bubbles at all. Kind of a wasted opportunity. To be fair, I pretty much only smoked when I was at the bar, and they would probably kick you out for, getting the bubble soap stuff everywhere. I don't know. Could you possibly recommend war games with NPC/neutral or hostile third-party force? Could you possibly recommend war games with NPC, neutral, or hostile third-party force? So do you mean like a solo co-op game? So there's a lot of solo and co-op games out there. So like if you and a friend wanted to play like you were not fighting against each other, but you were fighting against another force, there are tons of solo and co-op games out there. So that's what you're looking for. You're looking for solo if you want to play just by yourself against another force that's, or if you want to play co-op, you're looking for co-op games. As an example, just, off the top of my head, there's this weird little plucky company called Snarling Badger Studios, which I happen to be part of. That's me right there. There's Vince. That's an old picture of Vince. He's lost weight since then. I should get a new picture. Also, my beard is probably slightly lighter than it used to be at that time. Anyway, but my point is that pretty much all of our games have a solo and co-op built into them. Repent Ye Foolish Gods is our most recent. That's got solo and co-op. Rain and Iron, Death Wizards, Majestic 13, Space Station 0. Rain in Hell technically does not have solo and co-op when it launched, but there was an add-on called the Oculus Spear that added in solo and co-op. It was an expansion. It was, 2021 when we made this game. It was our first game, and everyone's like, hey, that's real cool. It's the pandemic, right? I'm not supposed to play against anybody. I'm not supposed to have people over to my house. And we were like, oh, yeah, that was dumb. So then we made the Oculus Spear in September, I believe, of 2021. So, but we're not the only company out there that makes solo and co-op games. But you're looking for, if it's like you want to play with someone and play against like a third party, I would tell you to look at solo and co-op games. I would also tell you to take a look at One Page Rules. They have a great thing called Star Quest, or they also have Fantasy Quest if you're into more fantasy stuff. But this can also be played co-op. You can play with single, you can play solo, and you can play co-op. And it's completely free. So just FYI. And they've got all the stuff over here and everything like that. So take a look at Grimdark Future Star Quest, or Age of Fantasy Quest is the fantasy version if you're more into fantasy stuff. But yeah, I would take a look at those as well. Frostgrave, Stargrave, and Silver Bayonet. They're also co-op and solo, sure. Well, I don't know if they're solo, but they're definitely co-op. Still rocking a Ryzen 3600X and an RX 5080 or 580. Gotcha. This is this thing is it's a Geekcom AX8 Max. Yes. This thing. So yeah, it's got a AMD R7 8745. I don't know what any of that means because I used to always be like an Intel / NVIDIA guy. And then it has a Radeon 780M graphics, which is basically like a laptop video card. But when I got mine, it was on sale to some degree. So this one only has 16 gigs of RAM, which you can upgrade it to. The one that I bought had 32 gigs of RAM. There was a choice. You could go in between 16 or 32. But the one I had has 32 gigs of RAM and a terabyte SSD, and it was $699. But I think that sale's done. But it's got pre-installed Windows 11 Pro, and the first thing I did was rip all that out of there and put into it Linux. I put a Linux distro on it called Bazzite, Bazzite, which was super crazy simple because I'm not good at that stuff, but it was really easy. All the drivers were absolutely fine. I've had literally no problems with the Bazzite install, and then I just put Steam on it and it was fine. So yeah, it's been great. So that's what I did. But like I said, if you want to play like, I don't know, Battlefield 6, no, that's not going to work. But if you want to play like indie stuff and things like that, that's pretty awesome. I always love hearing about Brotato. It's such a fun game. It really is. I almost got to 20th level or the 20th wave with a new character last night. And I died on the 20th level, which was a bummer. So Merit Notice, when I found out why was my base wasn't finished, if your competition is unit on a diorama, then say, yeah, I don't know. I don't do competitions. I've done one competition one time back in 2023. I entered something in a competition at the Nova Open. And I'll be honest, the judges are all great there. Like at the time, everything was cool. But the way that you sign up, like you have to use this software, tabletop.events, to be able to sign up. And I've never had great luck with tabletop events. So that was a bit of a problem. I was just like standing there and they're like, yeah, it's $7. I'm like, I have $7 right here. Here's $7 and here's my model. And they're like, oh, you have to log in through the software and you have to do this and that and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, but the software hates me. It's just, I don't know what it is about tabletop events. It just has never worked well for me. And so I just wanted to give them $7 and they would not take it. So I had to go and like reset 3 passwords and dick around and a whole bunch of stuff. And it was a pain. So, yeah. Some video game manufacturers think they're bulletproof. Vote with your dollars, people. We are more powerful than we realize. I mean, the video game manufacturers are, here's the thing. I'm pretty sure you're going to start to see a lot more indie games because these video game manufacturers, these companies are absolutely just gutting their studios. Like id Software is basically just got like, a staff enough to do tech support, and that's about it. They got rid of so many people because they got bought by Microsoft. Like all these companies got bought by Microsoft. Now Microsoft has gone through and laid off like 3,200 people and all this kind of stuff. And those people are going to go somewhere. And they have a particular set of skills. They're going to group up into small groups and start making their own indie games. And as it's already been shown, there are plenty of indie games out there that can outsell these AAA, multi-million dollar, like hundreds of $1,000,000, like Grand Theft Auto Grand Theft Auto 6 has allegedly took the budgets between $2 and $3 billion for the budget for that game, but it will make that money back in the first week. Easy. But there's a lot of games out there by EA and other companies like that. They spent $200 million and they're like, we didn't make our money back at all. And yet this game over here, with a weird stick figure guy who's hiding, in the corner, and then you paint him a color so the other guys can't see him. That thing has got more, people playing consecutively than our $200 million title does, and that's a problem, But I don't know. So it'll be very interesting to see. Hawaii Shakedown Hawaii is insanely entertaining. Yeah, no, that's Shakedown Hawaii is awesome. Everything is Crab is also awesome. Just got to Progress 15. Nice. Glad I got a new laptop and refreshed my desktop late last year before the prices went crazy. Picked up. Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm also glad that I got the laptop that I picked up, that M4 MacBook Pro. I'm glad I picked it up when I did. Good morning from South Elgin, Illinois. My boys used to play a lot of video games. They've opted out more for time for miniatures and indie games. Nice. Would like tiny Gundam minis because there aren't that many anime-esque mecha on the Western market. Even Robotech are insanely difficult to find. Interesting. AMG should release an epic scale Star Wars somewhere in the 8mm range. Would let them use AT-ATs in bigger vehicles. I think they should make as many games as possible in as many different scales as possible so that none of them will sell. Like, here's the deal. If you have to make an 8mm game, like, first of all, then if you're going to do that, it should be like probably 6mm, because then at least people who are playing Battletech will be able to use the same terrain. That's something to always think about. If you decide to just start making all your own stuff with all your own different weird scales, then all of a sudden people are like, I'm not going to get into that scale because I don't have anything that fits that scale. You know what I mean? One of the benefits of making a game that is the same scale as another game, especially if it's a popular game, is people will be like, well, I've already got a bunch of ruins for 40K. I can just grab some of those ruins, put them over here, and play my other game that's the same scale roughly with those ruins. I think that changing up the scales is not a great idea. I swear we did a video or a podcast about that, but I could be wrong. I don't know. I think that AMG should just try to stay afloat at this point, honestly. Try the Neuromancer audiobook if you're worried about the book being dense. It wasn't so much that it was dense. It was, I don't remember what it was. I started listening to the audiobook and then I stopped, and I should go back and start over. Nemesis box is great for kit bashing kill teams. I don't think I know what the Nemesis box is. Do I know what the Nemesis box is? I remember those Renegade Guardsmen in the last video just had one of those days on Sunday. At least dinner was nice. Well, there you go. Never found any Gibson books apart from Mona Lisa Overdrive. I remember reading, because Mona Lisa Overdrive is the second one. It's Neuromancer, Mona Lisa Overdrive, and then Count Zero, or is it Count Zero is second and Mona Lisa Overdrive is third? I can never remember. The Peripheral was really good. I can't remember if I read The Agency or not. Idoro I liked quite a bit. He had a book that I cannot think of the name of now off the top of my head, and it was about a woman who was like allergic to logos or allergic to branding. And that was pretty cool. Like, her job was to like be a consultant for companies to help them make their branding not suck or something. I don't know. It was I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. For tiny Gundams, look for Gundam artifact kits. Interesting. I have a friend who, whoops, everything slid. Sorry. I have a friend who hits up the auction every year. Sure. TV show would be interesting to see and how different it'll be from the book. Yeah. O scale. N is closer to Mech Warrior. Interesting. So it must be O scale. Gotcha. People who want a Star Wars game want a mass combat game because, well, that's how most battles in Star Wars people look like. Yeah. I don't, other than in like episode 2 or 3 or whatever, there weren't a lot of like mass battles. It was a lot of like running around in the Death Star, like shooting at, stormtroopers and this and that and everything. Like Clone Wars, yes. Clone Wars, there was a big bunch of mass battle, but I don't know. If I have to do research to understand a plot, that's a nope for me. I haven't read Snow Crash. It's on the list, though. Snow Crash is really good. Mods can post links as well as the creator. Ooh, I'm the creator. But Gen Pop can't post links. Yeah. MCP scale feels like comics. Shatterpoint scale feels like an abstraction. Yeah, like I said, it makes kind of sense with those guys with the models because they're superheroes. They're bigger than life, and it just seems a little wackadoo in the Star Wars Shatterpoint. I bought heavily into Shatterpoint because the models were really cool and the game seemed fun. Then I played 3 games and realized I didn't like it. I did a demo of it before it came out. They had it at Adepticon, and Panny Mauser got like on the waiting list or whatever, and she was able to bring someone. You could bring along a friend so you could like learn how to play or whatever. This is again before it came out. This is 2-3 years ago. And so she like messaged me on Discord and was like, "Hey, I've got a spot at this time. Do you want to come and check it out?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And that was very nice of her. But it's kind of board gamey because there's so many little tokens and different states and things like that. And when I say states, I mean like states of like, is this guy poisoned? Is he slowed? Is he gassy? Is he filled with ennui? Like, oh, I got a token for that. He's filled with ennui now. Like, and there are some games where they're just like, you'll have 30 tokens next to a guy sometimes or whatever. And then there's other games where they're like, let's dial that back. Like, I'll be honest, in our games that we do, we kind of have a unwritten rule where we don't do more than 4. Like, so in certain games, you could be like, what are the states in Repent? If I remember correctly, there's 4, and they are conditions: bleeding, immobilized, poisoned, or slowed. That's it. That's all you got. So yeah. Only book I've ever had problem reading was Stephenson's Anathema. Oh yeah, that book is something. Yeah, I know what you mean. I loved Cryptonomicon. I was going to say Necronomicon, but that's not right. No, Cryptonomicon by Stephenson was a book that I read multiple times. I haven't read it in a long time, but I read it multiple times. I should go back and get the audio version of it and just listen to it while I'm painting. But Anathema, or whatever it's called, my wife read it, and I bounced off of it. Fine Gent on Reddit made 3D STLs for free for the new Exodite ruins. That's what I was printing now. Oh, there you go. So yeah, that's the thing. It's weird that they're going to put this template out there because, yeah, somebody would just be like, oh, cool, and then just turn that into an STL file, and that would be pretty easy. Why didn't they just make an STL file? Or do both, because not everybody's got a 3D printer. Someone wants to make it out of cereal box, good luck, but also, hey, by the way, little pointy things can be made of card, but the horn things have way too complex of a shape. I know, right? Would be pretty easy to make them out of foam board, but to be honest, the designs look exceptionally matte. I mean, they look like Eldar stuff, so, Have to try that smoke bubbles thing. Sounds like fun. As a kid, I thought it was fun. I quit smoking over a month ago, cold turkey. I wish I'd thought of that bubble trick over 20 years of smoking. I mean, quitting smoking is a better thing. Yeah. My mom quit smoking unintentionally. This was back in, mid-2000s, I think. She just got super sick and just couldn't keep food down, and we took her to the ER, and they were like, nah, well, and then it just kept happening and kept happening. And then finally, one day, we were at another doctor's appointment, like an ER thing or something like that. And then she's like, well, like, what else has changed? What have you been doing? And she's like, no, nothing else has changed. Then finally she's like, oh, well, I did stop taking one of my medications. And the doctor was like, which one? And she told her which medication. I think it was Wellbutrin. She's like, I stopped taking Wellbutrin, and she'd been on it for like years. I didn't like it. It was making me sweaty. And then the doctor's like, you just stopped taking it, like cold turkey? She's like, yeah. My mom's like, "Do you think that's what did it?" And the doctor, like, literally, I've never seen a doctor do that before, but the doctor was like, "You think?" And it was, yeah. So, but because she basically could barely eat for like nearly a month, she could barely keep things down. She quit smoking during that time just because she didn't want to smoke either. And then she just never took it back up again. So for like the last 20 years of her life, she didn't smoke. But otherwise, as long as I knew her, she'd always smoked. They have long-term plans for bolt action. They just started moving all the models to plastic and releasing full plastic terrain starter sets. Yeah, I would think that they should be fine. I like that's their big deal. Like for Warlord, like it's because they recently pulled a bunch of stuff down. Like they got rid of Judge Dredd, and they had a couple other little games that they were like, nah. So they pretty much have Warlord. They pretty much have Bolt Action and Conflict 47, and those are their two big dogs. And Bolt Action's bigger than Conflict 47, I'm pretty sure. The 80s, when parents gassing their kids with secondhand smoke was totally acceptable. To be fair, we were doing it outside because it landed in the grass. You don't usually like to blow bubbles in the house. It's messy. I like the artwork on StarQuest. Yeah, yeah. The Modifius solo war games are pretty decent, like 5 Leagues, yeah. Guards of Trader's Toll is very much a play against autonomous third-party game. Yep, that one's definitely got one of those. People have been wondering if the new PUBG beta runs on the PS5 handheld, and I was like, hey, Uncle Adam has one of those. Well, so if it runs on the PS5, then it should run on the PS5 handheld, because the PS5 handheld is just a streaming machine, right? Like you can't buy the PS5. Well, you can. You can buy the PS5 handheld and not have a PS5, but then it won't do anything. Like the PS5 handheld, they call it PlayStation Portal. You have to have a PS5 like somewhere in your house on the network, and then you connect this thing through the network to it. And then like when I'm using that thing, the game is actually playing on my PlayStation 5 down in the basement, and I am like controlling it and watching it from here. But it rarely gives me any hiccups because I'm doing it in the house. Now, if I decide to take that the PlayStation Portal and go to Gen Con and try to play it on the Wi-Fi at the hotel, I don't know that it would work. I mean, I don't even know if it would function. If it did function, it would probably be slow, and you'd push the button, and like 3 seconds later, the guy would jump or whatever, that kind of thing. Google Stadia, basically. But when you're in your own network at home, I rarely ever have problems with it. But I only use it when I like don't want to sit in the basement and play a game, if like, again, like in the winter when it's cold down there. But yeah. But you would think that the PUBG beta, if it runs on the PS5, then it would run in the PS Portal too. But I don't know, maybe not. Pretty sure Vincey V, to use his full title, is a Gen Xer. Yeah, he's younger than I am, but I think he's right on the cusp maybe between Gen X and Millennial, but I think he's, because my wife is 6 years younger than I am, and she is technically still Gen X. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that Vince is too. Never understood why more PC games aren't on consoles. It's kept me from Total War Warhammer 3. Just use Bluetooth keyboard, looking like the Total War 40K is coming to consoles, though. I think the reason is because most people who are using consoles are just going to use controllers. And if you're like, hey, you can play this game if you go buy a mouse and keyboard, and they'd be like, but that's why I have a controller. And so that's probably the reasoning. It's like it's a sales thing, most likely. Removing that scamware known as Windows 11. Oh yeah, if I can go the rest of my life without using a Windows product, unless they turn their stuff around, right now there's no way that I'm planning on using Windows anything if I can help it. My streaming PC down in the basement is still Windows, and I am going to get rid of that and replace it with that Mac Mini that I mentioned earlier at some point. Right now it's running on a laptop because the previous PC died, but it's a thing. Warhammer website forces me to reset my password every time I want to log in. It's crazy how consistently broken it is. Oh, that sucks. pretty much all games are going to be vibe coded in the future. I mean, I think that especially, well, the thing is, if you're a bunch of indies who've been all laid off from a company, you might not go down that road just because, and I can say this because the AI companies used to be like, oh yeah, $20 a month and you get just so many tokens. It's awesome. And now they're like, oh wait, we got to cut back on those tokens a lot. So if you're using, let's say Claude code to do your vibe coding, the prices have gone up because the tokens, they're watching the tokens a lot closer and you're getting fewer tokens for your whatever, or else you're going and doing the API route where you have to pay complete just token cost. And I've been seeing these articles about big companies that were like, oh yeah, we're going to get rid of a bunch of people and we're just going to have a bunch of vibe coders and we don't need as many people. And now they're like, oh, all these little vibe coders that we have left are spending way fast through our budget because they're using vibe coding and it's the tokens. And so people who are indie aren't going to probably do as much vibe coding because it will be more expensive than just doing the code themselves. And they have to, pay attention to the bills more. So hopefully that's the case. I don't know. We'll see. Off to my every other Sunday D&D game. Enjoy Gen Con. I plan to do so. Thank you very much, BuzzRagog. Have a great D&D game. I don't often buy new games, but I'm buying Blood of the Dawn Walker day one. I don't know that one. Where there's money to be made, there are patent trolls. Sure, I suppose. Feels weird that I'm missing World of Tanks and World of Warships so badly. Interesting. I've thought about, what's the other one? War Thunder? I've kicked around the idea of like playing War Thunder, but I don't know. We'll see. I was streaming last night and a guy came in named Parkaboy from the book you're talking about. Interesting. Pattern recognition. That's the one. That's the one with the, yes, the lady that's like allergic to branding. Pattern recognition. I like that book. They've already spent nearly $100 million in development on Project Valor, and every single dollar seems well spent. One of the best games I've ever played. I've never even heard of Project Valor. I really only care about Warhammer novels, but they're only making new novels for the scalper market. Yeah. I have listened to, I actually just recently started re-listening to Ravnor, listening to Ravnor on Audible. But yeah, I haven't bought a Black Library book in a long time. I've never bought a new one, I don't think. I bought I've got a whole bunch of the older paperbacks, but I bought them used. I should probably sell them. I don't see myself reading them. I don't know if you know about this IP, but there's something called Machinen Krieger. I don't know. I don't know anything about that. It has a cool retro futuristic look, but I don't know if it's a game or a model display kit. Oh, there you go. Narrator or sound editor for Neuromancer audiobook on Audible doesn't know how to pause break between scenes. It makes it hard to follow the story. Oh, that's a bummer. Difference Engine by William Gibson and Bruce Sterling was a fantastic Steam book. Yes. Did I read that one? I think I did. Star Wars doesn't have enough factions to make a great army game, in my opinion. If Shatterpoint wasn't 40mm but 28, I think it would have been a success. Potentially. I love pattern recognition. That whole trilogy was great, but I loaned pattern recognition to a friend years ago. Haven't seen it since. Oh, that's a bummer. Gundam artifact models are an absolute nightmare to build. Well, that sounds like no fun. 50 to 70 pieces for a 2-inch tall model. That sounds like a Games Workshop model. Built one and sold the rest immediately because the first one felt like torture. Yeah, I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to build stuff that's like that crazy, you know? Been thinking about picking up a cheap Shatterpoint starter box and scaling all the ranges to play with my Star Wars Imperial Assault minis. Interesting. They'd be huge in comparison to the Imperial Assault guys. They'd be like, who are those giant guys? Have we thrown Oasis into the conversation? Oh, not the band. Okay, I was like, what? Anyway, here's Wonderwall. The GameFound launched recently. I'm pretty hyped. Discovered it thanks to Adepticon videos, yours included. Yeah. What's his name? Ash from Guerrilla Miniature Games, of course. He did a video about it recently. I think he got a bunch of the models printed. I'm not sure. It's a cool concept. I like the ships. I need to take a closer look at it, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm not usually into ship games too much. I don't know why, but I mean, the graphic design of it looks really cool. I think the ship designs look interesting. I don't know jack about the game particularly, although from what I understand, it's more about get in, get salvage, and get out than it is about get in, shoot bad guys, and get out. You know what I mean? But but yeah, my first exposure to it was Adepticon as well. I've been using an old electric toothbrush under running water to knock off the excess filler primer dust. After the water dries, the models look less grainy. Filler primer dust. I'm not sure what that means. Any more than 6 conditions, you cannot track them using D6s. Also true. They want you to use a cereal box because that leaves you with more money to buy their stuff. Oh, see, there you go. They're telling you to recycle. If GW did them as STLs, that would be acknowledging 3D printing exists. Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong there, yeah. She just decided to stop taking her antidepressant. Yeah, it was making her sweaty, which was a known, what do you call it? A known symptom or whatever, byproduct. No, you know what I'm saying. Yeah, that just is a thing. And so she was just real tired of it making her sweaty all the time. So she just stopped and then got really sick. And then it literally was the 3rd or 4th final, ER meeting finally, because this kept going. And then finally she's like, oh, I did stop taking those. Yeah, it was not ideal. Warlord does a bunch of historical games. They announced an Epic Zulu set just the other day. Oh, yeah. Stadia, LOL. Almost forgot to ask, did you see the video Hobby Homies did on some of the history with Archon Studios? Some questionable actions there? I didn't, no. I mean, well, did I see the thumbnail? I might have seen a thumbnail. Did on some history with Archon Studios. It's interesting because they went big over on Hobby Homies about StarCraft. So it's interesting that they are then like, yeah, but Archon Studios is shifty. I should probably watch it, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. My son was vibe coding a game in Game Maker Studio, but he got upset because he couldn't actually understand the code. I taught him programming basics, and it's helped him immensely. Yeah, as it turns out, knowing how the code works is super helpful, especially when you're trying to get a robot to write your code. Because then when it doesn't work, the robot's like, I don't know, seems to work for me. And you're like, well, it obviously doesn't work. Yeah, right. At least knowing code is helpful. Yeah, I don't know. The vibe coding thing, I've got friends that are programmers and they're like, yeah, sometimes I use it, and it speeds things along. I totally understand it for bug checking and for bug hunting. That totally makes sense. When you're like, why does this not work? Go take a look and tell me, because it could come back and tell you the wrong thing, and then you could check it and go, well, that's not it. But it also might come back and go, here's the problem. And you're like, oh, geez, I didn't see that. And so, yeah, for sure. Vibe coding stuff, I mean, the big outfits is there. Yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean, I could see smaller companies doing it maybe, or I could see people trying to vibe code an indie game in their free time. You know what I mean? Like they got a decent paying job doing whatever it is that they do, and they're willing to spend that kind of money on the tokens to make this thing happen maybe. But if you are a programmer that's been working for a company for a while and you've been let go and now you're going to try to start up an indie thing, I'm betting they're going to stay away from that because of the cost. Models chew up more tokens power to do the same amount of work for slightly better results. Yeah, well. Also, more and more complex coding stuff is getting included in downloadable AI models you can run locally, hence why the data centers are going to fail. Yeah. Game recommendation, Grim Dawn. Oh, yeah. I did play Grim Dawn back in the day. Wonderful game that is basically a love child of Diablo 2 and Titan Quest. I don't think I know Titan Quest, but yeah, it's basically like a different kind of Diablo 2, and I liked the heck out of that. I have that, I think, on Steam. Excuse me. Is there any more news on a Ghost in the Shell minigame? I know there's a Ghost in the Shell RPG. I don't know anything about a minigame. That's a good question. Only using the Imperial Assault minis and scaling the... Oh, okay, I gotcha. Space Hulk is a great ship game. No, I guess when I mean ship games, I mean fighting between ships. Like Battlefleet Gothic would be a ship game in comparison, whereas Space Hulk is you're on a ship, but you're fighting in hallways and stuff like that. Space Hulk is still pretty cool. I wish that they would get their heads out and decide to actually, do it, put it out there again or whatever. Just started sculpting for the Last War. Organic Nurgle-like figures are no problem. Doing armor that looks like a problem. You mean like 3D, like computer sculpting? Yeah, I could see that. Guess I need to make the plates and stuff first and then add. That I don't know. I'm not a good sculptor by any situation. Side effect. That's the word I was looking for. Wonder how long it will be before we see Sprudar ruins. I don't know. It's a good question. There was a certain one of the Mac figures in 120 I was going to buy, but it turns out to be 120 Australian. Oh, good Lord. I got and built 2 of the Maschinenkrieger Walker models, multi-part metal kits, roughly 15 millimeter scale, about 20 years ago. Huh. Quick last war question. Can we use orders all at once? We aren't using orders and we're getting pretty in dire consequences. Orders help a lot. I don't remember if you can use them all at once. That's a good question. It's been a minute since I played. Ash has Oasis models, and he also has a gameplay video. Gotcha. Yeah. Fox getting into StarCraft tabletop and then led him to do some digging and found some sketchy stuff. Interesting. At least GW didn't pull a Nintendo cardboard and tried to sell it to you for $80. Oh, yeah, I remember the Nintendo cardboard. That was hysterical. Filler primer dust from a rattle can. Automotive spray primer is lead-based. Don't want to breathe in or ingest that stuff. No, I wouldn't think so. I see what you're saying. Got this from a friend, but if you would trust a trained pigeon to do a job, you can trust AI with it, but not something else. I think trained pigeons are not necessarily under a lot of use these days. I grew up next to a family that was big into 4-H, which here in America, I don't know what 4-H stands for, but it's like a lot of farmer stuff. And you would go to like the county fair, and then you would like maybe one of the kids was really into making like leather craft. So she would make all these really cool, like a sheath for your Bowie knife, or like a cool belt. And then you would, kind of enter it in these competitions, and there would be first place and second place and all that kind of stuff and blah, blah. But there was a guy in the family. They had like not 6 kids. They had 4 kids. 4 kids. And one of the boys raised pigeons. And so the second floor kind of their garage, they had a huge garage. It was technically like a story and a half. But the second floor, like the loft of their garage, was where they had all these pigeons. And so they would train these pigeons. They would take a pigeon, put it in the car, and then drive it really far away and then let it out. And then it would have to fly back home or something. I don't know. That's a thing you could train a pigeon to do, I guess, which would be good for putting a message on a pigeon. But we have email, so we don't need pigeons for that. I don't know what else pigeons can do, like training-wise. Can they find dead people like in rubble? I think they've been using weasels and stuff like that for that, like ferrets. I don't know. Greeting from Little Rock, Arkansas. I'm stoked to catch you live today. Well, I'm glad to have you here, Joel. Really liked your review of the Army of the Damned. Looks like a great set to get for a comprehensive army. It's a great set. I got Machine and Krieger confused with DreamPod 9's Gear Krieg. Oh, yeah. I know multiple people that have ditched their Adobe sub having vibe coded their own alternatives that just have the functions they need, not all the extra stuff Adobe have added. That sounds like you've vibe coded your own Photoshop or something? That's crazy. There's so many other, there's like Affinity, there's like a lot of other stuff out there that you can do instead if you want to, but yeah. There is a Ghost in the Shell minigame. It's called Mechton Zeta and Zeta Plus. Not heard of either of those. Sculpting by hand, not 3D. That would be much cleaner, though. Oh. If you're thinking about Ghost in the Shell RPG, Mantic has several videos, including a playthrough with character building. Yeah, I thought that they had come out with something, but I'm not an RPG guy much. I absolutely loved Iron Harvest. It was one of my favorite games of the last 10 years, and recently found out their developer, King Art Games, is making Dawn of War 4. Oh, that's pretty cool. It's good to catch up your stream, going to go for the night. Have a great week, and see you next time. Absolutely. 4-H, head, heart, health, and hands. Oh, well, there you go. Yeah. Thanks for a couple hours of great hobby conversation. Absolutely. GW will remake Space Hulk eventually, produce like 500 copies, and then leave it to eBay. I don't understand. I just don't. They used pigeons for doing stuff like finding cancer. No kidding. Train pigeons to poop on politicians. Well, that's not a bad idea. There's a spec for IP over avian carriers. Nice. Yeah, so like I said, Gen Con, I'll be leaving on Wednesday. I'll talk tonight to Vince and see if he wants to do some sort of thing, and we'll try to figure something out. We'll share it on socials and stuff like that and see how that goes. Yeah. But thanks to everybody for coming by, hanging out today. I appreciate it. I hope that you have yourselves a good rest of your Sunday. Unless it's already Monday, then have a good Monday. I've got to get a bunch of stuff done. Like I said, I got to get the podcast ready for tomorrow, and then I've got to finish some scripts and do some stuff like that so I can film right early tomorrow and get those things done, and then edit the rest of Monday and then Tuesday, and then pack Tuesday night, and then off to Indianapolis. So, I'm pretty sure I'll make a Gen Con booty video the Friday after I get back, so you can expect that. And then I'll talk about those things, and it'll be great. So thanks to everybody for coming by. I appreciate it. And I hope you have yourselves a good day, and get some hobby done if you can. And if you can't, that's okay. Don't beat yourself up about it. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Stay safe. Thanks for watching.